Hi, I'm Jed, and this is Prez. Hey everybody, we're coming back with episode 2. We got more presidents coming at you, and since this is an earlier episode, they're not going to be fantastic. Warren G. Harding was our 29th president. He was a Republican, and he was president from 1921 to 1923. The main problem with Warren G. Harding was just his way of picking advisors and his cabinet. Most of them were just his friends and colleagues, which ended up really bad. His entire administration was riddled with scandals and just bad, corrupt, shady stuff going on. A lot of his cabinet would take advantage of taxes, government funds. They would give away large plots of oil-rich land that the government owned to just people he were friends with. So because of this, it was a very corrupt White House, and he ended up being a very hated president. So the real final analysis with Warren G. Harding was just he was not fit out to be president. He was too closely tied with his friends. And when you get the job as president, your friends can be your friends, but your advisors should be your advisors. The next president is William Henry Harrison. He was our 9th president, and he was a Whig. He was president in 1842. Hey, Jed, that's only 1 year. You'll get it. William Henry Harrison was a bit of a peculiar president, and, well, let's just get right down to it. He was a Whig president, and which essentially the Whigs' whole view was stay away from the issues and focus on publicity of the president. So he strayed away from issues, and then his entire campaign for president was centered around him being a rough-and-tumble Western American general. And this worked well with the people because the president before him, Martin Van Buren, was a very rich, hoity-toity president. So he became president without actually being suited for the job. And he really lied to the American people, saying that he was born in a log cabin because he was raised in a brick mansion in Virginia. But, maybe he was a great president. Maybe him lying maybe the fact that he lied himself into the White House is just a slight little thing. Not really. He gave the longest inaugural address of all time in the rain, without a coat. He caught pneumonia and died 32 days into his term, literally doing nothing. Andrew Johnson, he was our 17th president, a Democrat, president from 1865 to 1869. He was right after Abraham Lincoln, and as most of you probably know, Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed towards the beginning of his second term. So Andrew Johnson had to take hold of the Union when we were trying to build it back together after a 5-year-long war, which is no easy task. Especially when you're this guy who didn't do an amazing job. Let's just say we kicked him out for it. But let's get into why we kicked him out. President Andrew Johnson took control when the North and the South, while we're technically a union now, we're still having to go through a process of Reconstruction. Andrew Johnson's whole outlook was to be soft on the South, making this an easy and generous way to rejoin the Union, because he himself was a Southerner. But this really wasn't the best approach. See, the South took their loss very hard, and while they didn't technically have slavery anymore, they were treating the former, now freed people in a very, very bad way, denying them voting rights by threatening them, and taking away constitutional rights that they were given and were entitled to that they just didn't get because they lived in the South. Andrew Johnson really should have been harder on the South, making sure that the newly freed slaves, former slaves, got the help that they really needed. Congress did not like Andrew Johnson because of this, because they wanted to be strict on the South when they really needed to be. So they kicked Andrew Johnson out of office, but not for the reason you would think. See, Andrew Johnson, in his cabinet, had a cabinet member that he did not like. He kicked out his Secretary of War because he wouldn't follow his orders and brought in a new one. Congress saw that this wasn't in the Constitution and kicked him out of office for it. While people got onto this and thought this wasn't an actual reason to kick out a president and let him finish off his term, he left his office in disgrace and was never seen with respect ever again. So closing out and really looking at Andrew Johnson, he wasn't a horrible person, and his generosity towards the South was nice when you think about it, but when you really think about it, it really wasn't the way we should have handled Reconstruction at that point. So really, he wasn't handling the situation that we really should have done in that point in time. Next up is Rutherford B. Hayes, our 19th president. He was a Republican, and he served from 1877 to 1881. As you'll notice with those dates, he was very shortly after Andrew Johnson, only one president sitting in between them. A lot of people like to call Rutherford B. Hayes Rutherford B. Hayes, and that's because he probably shouldn't have been president in the first place. Let's take a closer look into this. So, as you know, we vote for our president, and whichever president gets the most votes determined by the Electoral College gets the presidency. But Rutherford B. Hayes' friends, let's just say they added some votes. Yeah, they committed voter fraud and added votes to Rutherford B. Hayes' initial count, giving him the presidency when really it should have been the other guy. Because of this, he became president, and it probably wasn't good that he became president. So, as you know, right after Abraham Lincoln died, we started Reconstruction, which Andrew Johnson did not do well in. But Reconstruction was still going when Rutherford B. Hayes took the helm as president. And he said, you know what, I think we're done here. Which was bad for a few reasons. One was we weren't done. We weren't done reconnecting the North and the South. They were still mad at each other. There were still brother against brother, mad that the North had won and the South had lost. The Southerners were still bitter that they had lost slavery, which was keeping their economy really running. And so, not only did we still need to help we still needed to help the South economically, but there was also the issue of slavery still on the table. While slavery wasn't happening, as I said, the South was still mistreating the former slaves. And since we ended Reconstruction so early and didn't crack down hard enough or long enough on the South, segregation started, which basically meant that in the South, because they were still bitter towards the former slaves, based on color alone, they would segregate certain things. You've seen pictures probably of white-only, black-only bathrooms. So because Rutherford B. Hayes stopped Reconstruction when he did, the bitterness and segregation started. So when you really look at Rutherford B. Hayes, he was a bad president. Lying yourself into office and then ending Reconstruction before we were done reconstructing is really bad. So we're still in the bad president territory, and gosh darn it, we've had some bad ones. Well, that was episode 2. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys like, subscribe, comment, and share it with all your friends. Tell everybody. And stay alert for more new episodes because we have more on the way. And it's always a fun time with Prez. Stay alert. We're coming.